This is the entity is ongoing pacing by planes, flying at a low elevation behind that tree, as though there's a plane taking off from 2500 Airport Drive, hovering over 325 West G Street, which there isn't. This is while I'm speaking the truth about, again, the entity targeting with Tracy Banks, who was not telling lies to the government in order to convince it to target me, which a corrupt government remains corrupt, regardless of any lies told about your character. The secret conservatorship about property never revealed to me is corruption by the government that's engaged in surveillance in this country. Surveillance which is identified through this environment, which defies nature, has nothing to do with my under artificial light that does not create adjacent shadows like this. This is the entity that's doing so while you can hear it on podcast, and it's relevant to the criminal conduct of the corrupt entity that's engaging in surveillance with the people of the state. The imbeciles that don't need Tracy Banks to lie about my character because they know exactly who I am, while the entity's been engaged in keeping me under surveillance since I was a child. Tracy Banks lying about me being an addict. Tracy Banks lying about me being some sort of promiscuous whore who puts my nude body on the internet. Never. And the entity knows that. The entity's been gang stalking, seeking to steal my property, maintaining a status of oppression is relevant to keeping silent what it is that I'm exposing. The entity's engaging in that which it's doing in concert with the people of the state, which is Tracy Banks. That is targeting together. It is currently, again, 2:28. This video is at 1 minute and 30 seconds, and you have another plane over here. Okay, you're looking at what is rising up from, that's Palm Laurel. That's not a takeoff. That's not a takeoff. This is stalking. That's not a takeoff. This is what the Ontario Police Department is doing. Demons sitting in the dark, stalking, using a motorcycle. This is not a takeoff from 2500 Airport Drive. And the people of the state on El Morado, on H Street, on Bonita, on San Antonio, gang stalking as I went around reading their license plates. And the entity that is the Ontario Police Department acting via the, acting on behalf of the federal government's pattern of conduct in this country, are using planes and helicopters to obviously engage in surveillance where you're hovering over the venue where you're being targeted. This is, again, the unintelligent system of the inferior demons who do not need Tracy Banks to lie about my character. Tracy Banks is a third party engaging in what is the United States government's pattern of conduct, targeting you while they are relatives and in your social circle. And they, the government knows exactly what you are. The government knows when you're not an addict. The government knows you're not mentally ill. The government knows that you're not a thief. The government knows you're not a criminal. The government knows that you didn't take out all those PPP loans in your name. The government knows exactly when they are targeting with planes and helicopters in the specific environment in concert with the people of the state. Tracy Banks did nothing other than play her role. She's going to federal prison for it. But the entity is engaged in criminal surveillance. It's the federal government's pattern of conduct, and the federal government is the one that is not investigating this. This is the federal government's criminal conduct pursuant to surveillance. Okay? The entity is engaging in what is very unintelligent. This is Palm and Laurel. You're not rising in elevation right here from the airport, which is at 2500 Airport Drive. And again, and light activity, artificial lights don't create my adjacent shadows that you see on the ground and upright on the wall. This is the entity that's engaging in what is criminal surveillance relevant to what it is that I'm exposing. And this is the same entity that's stealing my intellectual property while they're engaged in gang stalking. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison for playing her role in targeting me with the U.S. government, but Tracy Banks is not responsible for the corruption of the United States government that's targeting American citizens, and it's demonic. It's entirely demonic. It is currently, again, 2:30 a.m. This is relevant to Jason Isaac Fields, who's going to federal prison. Okay? The entity is targeting, so is the people of the state that are targeting with that government. Everything that they're doing in this environment is achieving the elements of monitoring, which is demonic activity, pursuant to a corrupt system of surveillance in concert with that population. All right? They are crossing. Let me show you where they're crossing path. They're a crossing path where you can see that sign. This is my shadow. This is my hand. This is where the entity is targeting. No airport drive is going to result, when you're taking off from the airport, is going to result in hovering over Palm and taking off as you're rising in elevation over 325 West G Street. This is why you're able to see my hand on this sign at a distance in front of me, and why I have multiple shadows on the ground in front of me. This is where the people of the state are pacing. These are demons that are stalking with the U.S. government, acting via the imbeciles of the city of Ontario. stalking by helicopter, stalking by commercial planes, stalking on foot in the middle of the night, all manner of criminals that are stalking a woman with the U.S. government. There's no mystery. They're engaging in what is making money off of shows like 48 Hours and Dateline, surveillance in the United States. There's no investigations. They know exactly what's going on in this surveillance state. And gang stalking police officers are going to federal prison, regardless of this corruption that I remain subject to because I've exposed the federal government for engaging in this targeting system. And they're still waiting on witchcraft that's not going to activate against me. This is P.O.C. The entity, again, this video is at 5 minutes. You have a high frequency of plane activity right here where there's no airports at all whatsoever. And also on the podcast, when I'm speaking the truth about this, the entity engaging what is a louder amplified plane activity while I'm speaking the truth about the U.S. government. Tracy Banks is nonetheless going to federal prison. She parked her car outside. She has a reserved parking space on the inside. She parked her car outside so that she could be a part of the documentation. She already is. As I document gang stalking by the city of Ontario, Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. Okay, this is where the plane activity is underway. Exhibit A. There's no planes taking off from Terminals 2 and Terminal 4. And this is abnormal light activity. This is how you recognize the surveillance that's been underway since I was born. All of Tracy Banks' lies is a part of the pattern of conduct of the U.S. government. This is P.O.C. Absolutely impossible. That's where surveillance is underway. P.O.C. That's Alan D. Wapner. Paul Leon. It's also Mike Lorenz, gang stalking police department. Michael Gherkin, gang stalking fire department. Like I've documented, while the entity keeps a fake sun over 0.4 miles in the city of Ontario from sunrise until sunset, the Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, and the Ovid Family Community Library at 215 East C Street in Ontario, California, where the fake sun rises and sets, where LAPD is engaging in the exact same pattern of conduct pursuant to the United States government's POC of targeting me under a fake sun that remained over Alvarado Gardens from sunrise until sunset, where Tracy Banks, maintaining a secret conservatorship, acting in conformity to the United States government's pattern of conduct that seeks to steal property that it knows very well belongs to me and never told me about it, the entity targeting by engaging in that means of oppression while targeting and using what is the people of the state to engage in an unabated program of psychological torture, an unintelligent program, an unintelligent system of stalking through the government, whose corruption is thereby exposed at the same time while the POC is suppressed and the entity is stealing that intellectual property. All aspects of this criminal system is being exposed, and there are a lot of people that are going to prison. That's impossible light activity. Remember, my shadows appearing on that sign, that's a stalker. That's the people of the state that I documented on H Street, El Morado, and Bonita, and the entity engages in gang stalking by helicopter pursuant to surveillance. My shadows all over on the ground here, upright on the wall here, and appearing on this sign at a distance over there. This is stalking. And so is 636 North Vine Avenue. They're engaged in criminal surveillance. It is currently 2:35 a.m. This is the POC. This is the entity that's engaging in targeting, and the entity is engaging in what are ongoing desperate acts, failing and seeking to falsely depict my character successfully. They failed in that. That's a pattern of conduct, and that's the U.S. government's engagement. They're just using Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. Remember, the state are nothing other than the low-level demons that are supposed to get the job done. It didn't work. The federal government is exposed for targeting American citizens engaging in surveillance. These low-level demons are exposed. And the federal government, federal law enforcement agencies engaging in targeting American citizens like myself, this is what they do to American citizens whom they silence. They silence them by taking your life and keeping you kidnapped. They do so by falsely depicting your character when you don't have the evidence of the POC like I do. And the entity is merely relying on imbeciles like the Ontario police to kidnap you. Okay? That's why they are being disbanded. And the federal government, this is the federal government's criminal pattern of conduct. It is currently, again, 2:36 a.m. This is POC.